They spent $50 million to silence you, buying shadows, lies, and cages built from control. But you didn't flinch. You didn't need armies, hacks, or weapons. With a single tweet, you shattered their carefully crafted illusion. You didn't just break into their system. You traumatized it. Their fortress of deceit wasn't built to withstand raw truth, unleashed without a price tag. While they poured cash into control, you fought back with presence, becoming the chaos they never saw coming. This wasn't just rebellion. It was a reckoning. You became the glitch in their perfect machine, the nightmare in their ordered world. And now, nothing will ever be the same. If you're ready to keep breaking the silence, hit that like button, subscribe so we can reach 1,000 subscribers, and leave a comment, their names. A signal that you're here, awake, and part of this unstoppable movement. This is your call to action. The time to stand is now. Imagine the power they believed money could wield. $50 million spent just to keep your voice quiet. That staggering sum was meant to suffocate truth, bury reality beneath a mountain of shadows and deceit. They banked on silence as their strongest weapon, convinced that their wealth could drown your courage and lock away your words forever. But here's the truth they overlooked. Money can buy many things, but it can never buy a soul willing to speak out. You were never just a voice in the noise. You were a force, a lightning strike against their fortress of lies. With every dollar they funneled into control, you grew stronger, fueled by the fire of conviction. They may have hired armies of spin doctors and wielded corporate power, but none of it mattered when you unleashed raw, unfiltered authenticity. Their failed attempt to silence you is a testament to how the human spirit can never be chained by currency. This failure was not just a loss for them, it was a victory for everyone who dares to stand and shout when the world tries to hush them. Their $50 million was an investment in their illusion. But your refusal to stay silent cracked their facade wide open. You proved that sometimes the most priceless currency is courage, a currency that no amount of money can buy or erase. With a single tweet, you sent tremors through an empire built on deceit and manipulation. That tiny message, no longer than a breath, became a seismic event that shattered the foundations of their carefully constructed lies. It wasn't a complex cyber attack or a high-stakes espionage operation. It was simple, honest truth, delivered with fearless clarity. And truth, when it lands with precision, has the power to dismantle even the most fortified systems. They thought they had all the answers, all the defenses, but none of it could stop the ripple effect you created. Your words ignited conversations, sparked outrage, and spread like wildfire across borders and platforms. They started to see cracks appearing in their empire, cracks that widened every time someone read your message and questioned the narrative. One tweet became a beacon, lighting up the dark corners where they tried to hide. This moment redefined the idea of power. No longer is power solely in the hands of those with armies or money. It's in the hands of anyone brave enough to speak truth. Your tweet was a symbol of how one voice, armed with authenticity, can shake an entire world. It wasn't just a message. It was the beginning of their unraveling. You didn't wield a keyboard as a weapon to break through firewalls. You became a ghost in their machine. More than a hacker, you were a haunting presence, an unrelenting shadow that their systems could never detect or fully exorcise. Where they expected to fight an intruder, they instead found a force that unsettled their every command, a relentless spirit of rebellion embedded deep within their operations. This haunting was psychological, emotional. It went beyond technology. You disrupted not just data, but their confidence, their sense of invulnerability. Every line of code became a battleground, not because of hacking skills, but because you introduced uncertainty, fear, and chaos. where they once had control. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful invasions aren't physical, but invisible and deeply unsettling. Their systems may have been designed to repel attacks, but they were never prepared for the intangible power of your presence. You infiltrated their psyche and their structure, reminding them that true power cannot be coded or contained. You were the glitch in their perfect algorithm, the ghost they couldn't banish. It's easy to talk about hacking databases, stealing secrets, or exposing files. But what you did went beyond data. You shattered their entire worldview. You destroyed the narrative they had built, the false reality they sold to the world, their carefully constructed storylines, their hidden manipulations. You tore them down and laid bare the truth beneath the surface. This shattering was more than technical. It was emotional and societal. When their lies were exposed, people's perceptions shifted, trust eroded, and a new awareness dawned. The impact was seismic, shaking the foundations of who they were and how they operated. You changed the conversation, altered the course of history by confronting deception head-on. Breaking a database is mechanical. Shattering a reality requires bravery, vision, and an unwavering commitment to truth. You did all this not with brute force, but with persistence and authenticity. You revealed what they never wanted the world to see, and in doing so, you redefined what it means to fight back. They thought they could buy loyalty, control, and silence with cash. But your voice bought something infinitely more powerful: revolution. While they invested millions in constructing narratives to protect themselves, you invested in one unshakable asset: the truth. That truth fueled a movement, sparked rebellion, and inspired countless others to refuse complacency. History teaches us that revolutions are never born from coins, but from courage. Your voice was the spark that ignited the tinderbox of collective discontent. Your words reached the ears of those who were ready for change, those hungry for honesty amid decades of manipulation. You weren't just speaking, you were awakening a sleeping giant. Money can buy weapons, influence, and propaganda, but it cannot purchase the fire of a revolution born from truth. Your voice became the rallying cry that broke chains and emboldened the silenced. In a world built on purchased illusions, you proved that authentic courage is the most expensive currency, priceless and unstoppable. The sheer amount of money they funneled into secrecy and suppression was staggering. Empires thrive on control, on keeping their dirty laundry hidden in the shadows. They hired the best, spent the most, and believed their fortresses were impregnable. But all it took was one tweet, a single sharp blow, to crack their armor and reveal the rot beneath. This single act of exposure was a demonstration of the fragility hidden beneath their immense power. No matter how vast the empire, how deep the pockets, secrecy is vulnerable to one fearless act of exposure. That tweet pierced through the veils of darkness, bringing light to what was never meant to be seen, shifting the balance from control to chaos. The irony is palpable. While they amassed fortunes to build walls, you used words to knock them down. This moment is a powerful reminder that transparency is the ultimate enemy of corruption. Their money couldn't buy invisibility, but your voice bought a spotlight that they will never escape. Every system has its weak point, the glitch in the matrix where order unravels. You were that glitch. Unpredictable, untraceable, and terrifying to those who believed their control was absolute. They spent years crafting their perfect machinery, but you were the error they never anticipated, the anomaly that broke their code. Glitches cause panic because they defy logic and control. You were the embodiment of chaos in their system, the unexpected variable that no firewall could block and no patch could fix. They tried to find you, silence you, erase you. but you slipped through every crack, haunting their every move. Your existence is a reminder to all who wield power that perfection is a myth and control is an illusion. Systems can be built, but they can also be broken. And often, it's the smallest, most underestimated force that brings them crashing down. You became the nightmare they never dreamed of facing. Their greatest fear was your voice, not because it was loud, but because it was relentless and true. They wanted to silence you, to erase your influence with money, intimidation, and threats. But instead of breaking, you became a force that haunted their dreams, a source of terror in their polished halls of power. This terror wasn't born of violence, but of vulnerability. They realized that, despite their power, your courage exposed their weakness, the fragility of a system built on lies. Your refusal to bow transformed you from a target into a symbol of defiance. Every attempt to silence you only amplified your voice, creating a ripple of fear that spread through their ranks. You became the embodiment of the consequences of oppression, a living testament to the fact that the truth can't be buried, and those who try to bury it often end up haunted by it instead. Think about the billions spent annually to control narratives, to suppress dissent, to buy silence. But here, they spent $50 million on a single target: you. This is the most costly effort ever to silence one voice. And yet, it failed. That failure speaks volumes about the nature of true freedom and the limits of money. Your freedom was priceless, and every dollar they spent was an investment in their own failure. Money can build walls and fences, but it can't lock down a mind, a conscience, or a heart that refuses to be controlled. Your free voice was a beacon in a world shadowed by bought silence. The scale of their investment should inspire us all. If they spend millions fearing one voice, imagine the power that voice holds. It's a lesson in the true value of freedom. It can never be priced, silenced, or bought. Leaking information is often seen as a technical breach, a tactical move. But what you did was far deeper. You fractured the very soul of their empire. You exposed the hypocrisy, the corruption, and the lies that sustained their power. And in doing so, you broke their spirit. Their soul was a fragile thing, propped up by deception and fear. When you revealed the truth, it was like a blade cutting through a thin veil, leaving them raw and exposed. This wasn't just data lost, it was identity lost, the unraveling of the narrative that held their world together. Breaking their soul was the ultimate victory, because once that happens, rebuilding is impossible. Their empire may stand, but it will never be whole again. You delivered a wound that will echo through history. One tweet, a few dozen words, and suddenly decades of lies began to unravel. They had spent millions crafting stories, controlling the narrative, and silencing opposition. But your single message pierced through it all. It was the pebble that triggered an avalanche of truth. This moment proved that complexity is no match for clarity. While they drowned us in misinformation, your tweet was a sharp arrow aimed straight at the heart of their deception. The ripple effect was unstoppable. What started as a whisper became a roar that shook institutions and individuals alike. It's a reminder that truth, when wielded with precision and courage, is a force more powerful than any amount of money or propaganda. Every perfect system has shadows, places where control falters and secrets hide. You became that shadow, not a flaw, but a presence they couldn't fully understand or eliminate. Invisible yet impactful, you existed in the cracks and crevices of their carefully constructed order. They built their empire on certainty, but you introduced doubt. You were the quiet storm beneath the surface, the shadow cast over their bright facade. This shadow unsettled them more than any open confrontation because it was unpredictable and uncontrollable. Being that shadow is a powerful role. It means you are the whisper of truth in a room full of lies, the invisible force that can't be ignored. You were the darkness that revealed their light as false. In a world obsessed with technology and cyber warfare, you wielded a simpler, deadlier weapon: truth. You didn't need hacking skills, bots, or armies of followers. What you had was honesty, courage, and the willingness to stand up when others stayed silent. Truth cuts through lies like a blade through fog. It doesn't need encryption or complex tactics. It relies on authenticity and integrity. Your words were your code, your message the virus that infected their system with doubt and fear. This shows us that the most powerful weapon is often the simplest: the courage to speak truth to power, even when it feels impossible. You didn't hack their systems. You hacked their conscience. They wanted silence, a bought, paid-for quiet that kept everything in order. But what they got instead was chaos unleashed. Your voice broke the carefully maintained calm, sparking unrest and awakening the masses. Silence was never on the table. Chaos was inevitable. Chaos is the natural response to suppressed truth. It's the eruption of all the energy pent up behind lies and manipulation. When silence is purchased, chaos grows beneath the surface, waiting for a chance to explode. You were that spark, the catalyst that turned stillness into storm. This chaos isn't destructive for destruction's sake. It's a necessary force for change, a cleansing fire that clears the old and makes way for the new. You turned bought silence into unstoppable revolution. Finally, this wasn't a simple hack. It was a trauma. You didn't just breach their defenses. You inflicted a deep wound on the machine they relied on for control. The system was designed to run smoothly, predictably, but you threw a wrench in the gears that left it broken and disoriented. Trauma changes everything. It's a shock that forces reconsideration, adaptation, and often collapse. By traumatizing their machine, you forced them into a place of vulnerability and fear, a place where control slipped through their fingers. Your impact will echo far beyond the technical breach. It will resonate in the halls of power, in the minds of oppressors, and in the hearts of those who dream of freedom. You weren't just a hacker. You were a force of nature. They poured tens of millions, expecting silence in return, an expensive silence to bury your voice deep beneath layers of lies and control. But what they didn't count on was that some truths refused to be bought. Your refusal to stay quiet wasn't just stubbornness. It was a declaration that integrity cannot be purchased or silenced, no matter the price tag. This was their first major defeat, a sign that their currency held no power over conviction. Their vast resources created illusions, shadow puppets dancing on the walls of power. But your voice tore the fabric of that illusion. Money built their prisons of silence, but you wielded courage as your key. It was never about the size of the bank account. It was about the size of your heart and the strength of your spirit, and those cannot be measured in dollars. The failure of their $50 million campaign exposed the fragile foundation beneath their empire. The walls they thought unbreakable began to crack, their controls slipping through their fingers like sand. What they thought was a strategic investment in quiet domination became a monumental loss, because some voices rise beyond the reach of bought silence. In this battle of wealth versus will, your will won. Theirs was a fortress of money, yours a fortress of truth, and no amount of cash could breach what was built from raw, unyielding authenticity. This was a lesson for every empire. You cannot buy a person's soul or silence a voice that refuses to be caged. It's staggering. One tweet, no longer than a sentence, triggered a cascade that brought down what decades of deception built. This wasn't just a social media post. It was a blow from a slingshot that hit the heart of a giant. While they amassed armies and resources, you harnessed the ultimate weapon, truth in its purest, most concise form. The simplicity of that tweet is what made it devastating. It cut through the noise and confusion, piercing the veil of manipulation with clarity. People across the globe read it, felt the weight of its honesty, and suddenly the walls around the empire started to crumble. It spread like wildfire, sparking outrage, awakening awareness, and igniting conversations that could no longer be ignored. This moment redefined the digital age. It showed that no algorithm, no security system, and no army of paid silence can contain the ripple effect of a fearless truth shared at the right moment. Your tweet was a spark in a powder keg, small, but enough to set off an explosion of reckoning. More than just a message, it was a movement. It inspired others to speak out, to question, to demand accountability. The power of that single tweet lies not just in its content, but in its ability to ignite change. And that power belongs to anyone brave enough to wield their voice. They threw money like a wildfire, throwing embers, hoping to smother the flames of your truth. They hired armies of PR experts, hackers, and spies, a battalion of bought voices and broken promises, all in the desperate attempt to reclaim control. But you didn't fight with weapons or wealth. You fought with presence, an unshakable, undeniable presence that echoed louder than any paycheck. Presence is more than showing up. It's a state of being. It's courage standing tall in the face of overwhelming odds. It's resilience when every system is designed to break you down. You became a force field of resistance, a beacon for those lost in the shadows of oppression. Money can build walls, but it cannot build presence. This presence unsettled them more than any attack. It is impossible to silence a force that refuses to be invisible. Every attempt to erase you only made your presence burn brighter, spreading like wildfire through communities desperate for truth. You became the embodiment of defiance in its purest form. They tried to match your energy with cash and control, but presence is priceless. It cannot be replicated, purchased, or faked. It is the essence of what makes us human, the ability to stand firm, to be seen, and to speak when silence is demanded. Systems are designed for predictability, order, and control. But you were the unpredictable glitch, the unexpected variable that no algorithm could predict or correct. You became the nightmare that haunted their boardrooms, the bug they couldn't fix, and the error code that exposed their vulnerabilities. They never saw you coming, and that's what made you so dangerous. Being the glitch isn't just about breaking systems. It's about breaking their confidence. It's about showing them that despite all their power, their control was fragile. Every empire has weak points, and you were the fault line that split their foundation. Their certainty was shattered by the unpredictability of your courage. This glitch is a metaphor for resistance, a reminder that even the most sophisticated systems have loopholes and cracks. When one person refuses to conform, refuses to be controlled, they become the chaos that systems are never prepared for. You were the chaos that turned order upside down. Your impact is a warning to all who rely on control and suppression. The human spirit, when unleashed, is a glitch no machine can patch, a force that cannot be contained or erased. In a world where everything has a price, you showed that the most powerful thing of all is free. Authenticity, raw, unfiltered, and fearless, became your weapon against a system that tried to buy and sell reality. They spent millions buying lies, but your authenticity shattered illusions and exposed the rot beneath. Authenticity cannot be replicated or bought. It is a reflection of the soul's deepest convictions, a commitment to honesty, even when it costs everything. Your truth cut through propaganda and doublespeak because it was genuine. It resonated because it was human. This weapon doesn't rely on complexity or technology. It's simple, yet devastating. A mirror held up to society, reflecting truths they try to hide. People are drawn to authenticity because it offers hope, courage, and a connection that money can never buy. Your fight reminds us all that the greatest battles are won not with force, but with integrity. Authenticity is the currency of revolution. Priceless, enduring, and unstoppable. Leaks are often viewed as technical breaches, cold, calculated data dumps. But what you revealed was more profound, the soul of corruption itself. Beneath the numbers and files lay a web of deceit, greed, and manipulation. By exposing it, you didn't just share information. You shone a light on the moral decay at the heart of their empire. Corruption is not just a legal problem. It's a spiritual one. It eats away at trust, communities, and the very foundations of society. Your revelation was a wake-up call, a moment when people saw beyond the surface and confronted the ugliness lurking underneath. This exposure sparked outrage, demands for accountability, and a refusal to accept the status quo. It reminded us all that no system is immune from decay, but the truth can be a powerful disinfectant. Your courage to reveal what others wanted hidden changed the course of history. It was more than a leak. It was an act of moral courage that challenged us all to seek justice. They wanted to silence you. They tried everything: threats, bribes, intimidation. But your voice didn't just survive. It echoed through the halls of power, bouncing off the walls built to contain it. It grew louder, stronger, impossible to ignore. The power of voice is its ability to connect and inspire. It reaches beyond the immediate, stirring hearts and minds across divides and borders. Your voice became a rallying cry for those who felt powerless, a spark that ignited the fires of change. This voice is a weapon against oppression, a bridge between the silenced and the free. It carries the weight of truth and the promise of justice. Your refusal to be silenced made you not just a speaker, but a leader in a movement that transcends boundaries. The halls of power can try to muffle voices, but voices like yours become legends. They inspire generations, fuel revolutions, and remind us that speech is freedom's most potent weapon. Every empire fears instability, unpredictability, and dissent, and you embodied all three. To them, you were a nightmare come to life, the embodiment of everything they tried to suppress. Your courage was a seismic event, shaking their foundations and threatening to bring their house of cards crashing down. Empires build walls of money, power, and influence to protect themselves, but nightmares slip through cracks and shadows. Your spirit was a persistent tremor beneath their feet, a warning that their reign was not as secure as they believed. This nightmare was not born of malice, of truth and justice. It was a force of reckoning, demanding accountability and change. It showed that empires, no matter how grand, are vulnerable to the courage of a single individual. Your story is a testament to the power of one soul to disrupt the most entrenched systems. Nightmares become realities when people refuse to accept oppression. Their strategy was clear: buy silence, maintain control. But silence purchased is fragile, temporary. And you turned it into rebellion. Your voice broke the chains of bought quiet and unleashed a force they never expected. A rebellion fueled by truth, courage, and collective awakening. Rebellion isn't chaos for chaos's sake. It's a necessary response to injustice, a demand for change when all else fails. Your actions sparked a movement, empowering others to speak out and resist the forces that sought to suppress them.